Hey guys, it's Cindy from DIY Beautify here. I'm excited today to bring you another inexpensive DIY. In fact, it's a Dollar Tree DIY. Everything we're using today is exclusively from the Dollar Tree, and this project is about $3 when you add everything up that you need. What we're gonna do, I bought this love sign from Dollar Tree, and we're going to transform it into a shelf sitter. You can see that it has a way to hang it on the back, but I'm going to actually unscrew these and take them off, and then we're going to cover the word with buffalo check fabric that I also found from Dollar Tree. So let's get started. Okay, so let's go over the supplies you're going to need for this easy DIY. Obviously, this little love sign, it is nice and sturdy, and because it's flat on the bottom, it sits. So we're going to turn this into a shelf sitter. Then you're going to need some of this buffalo check fabric. This also is from the Dollar Tree. I found several of these, and in fact, I made this little tea towel using the same fabric. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a Sharpie, marker, or just a black pen, some kind of white chalk paint. It doesn't really matter what kind you use. I'm using this brand from Deco Art in the color Cotton. You're going to need a couple of paint brushes, just little, small, flat ones. And as far as attaching the buffalo check fabric to the sign, I haven't done this yet, so it's a little bit of an experiment. So I found this spray adhesive from the Dollar Tree, so we may use that. I also bought some tacky glue. We may use that. And then they were out of their decoupage, so I had to pick this one up from Hobby Lobby. But Dollar Tree normally carries a little bottle like this of Mod Podge, and I may just use that. We'll see once we get further into the project. I'm also using a tiny Phillips head screwdriver, and I'm going to remove the hanging hardware from the back of this sign just to make it easier to work with. And I'll probably save those and use them for another project because they're nice and sturdy. So just take those out. It just takes a couple seconds. And I'm just going to try to keep the screws together with the hanging hardware. Okay, so the very first thing we want to do is trace our word onto buffalo check fabric and cut it out. Now, if you cannot find this at the Dollar Tree, I actually bought 3, and when I went back yesterday, there was none. So if you're unable to find any, the Target Dollar Spot has some really cute tea towels. I think they're $3, but that would be a good alternative. This is a big piece. You can see, I think it's 20 by 21. So I am going to lay my word upside down so that when we flip it over, I'm going to lay it upside down on the wrong side of the fabric to trace it. All right, so I'm just going to use a pen and see how this works. Just make sure that it's even as far as the lines of the checks go. And just trace it out. Excuse my head if it's in the way. That's a tight fit for my pen. All right, just go all the way around. Double check to make sure your corners are nice and tight. Sometimes your pen wants to kind of skip the corner and give you more of a rounded look. Okay, almost done. Again, I'm not able to get in all the way with my pen, so we may just have to trim that little part after, and that's not a big deal. And then don't forget to cut out the heart shape in the O. Trace that out as well. All right, so lift that up and I'll show you. You can see it's all traced, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now with my scissors. You don't want to, I mean you can, but I recommend not washing this fabric first because it has a little bit of a stiffening agent in it before it's washed, which actually makes it easier to work with for this project. Okay, so I'm just cutting around the outside edge and then I'll do the details. All right, so let's get that out of the way. You may actually need a little bit of an iron because it's been rolled up. It's got some creases in it and it makes it a little bit tricky to work with. So it's definitely not a necessary step. But if you're having trouble with your fabric, see how there's this fold right here halfway on those letters? I may just give it a little bit of a iron to make it easier to work with. And surprisingly, it's not fraying at all, which is nice, because I was wondering how I was going to cope with that if that presented itself. Usually I like to make whatever I'm making to show you, I like to pre-do it first, just so I know if there's any you know, issues I'm going to run into. But today we're just doing this on the fly. That's kind of fun sometimes too. All right, I'm going to pause the video, go ahead and finish cutting out my word, and then I'll pop that back in to show you. Okay, so I went ahead and finished cutting out my word, the whole outline around it. I did iron it so that it's flat and you can see. Now the only thing I haven't cut out yet is the heart in the middle of the O. And I just wanted to show you how easy it is to do that. Give your fabric in the very center of the shape that you're cutting out. Just fold it just a little bit and make a snip with your scissors, and when you unfold it, then you have a spot to put your scissors in to cut that shape out. Just a quick tip that makes it really easy to cut out shapes from inside of something else, especially if you're working with fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the rest of this heart. Almost done. This fabric is fraying very, very slightly some of the edges. That is not a problem. It's not going to matter once we get it all glued to our sign. You're not going to notice it. Okay. So let's see if you can see what I have here. It's all cut out from one piece, which actually makes it nice and difficult. It makes it a little trickier to attach to the final piece. But for now, we're going to just set this aside because I don't want to just glue it to the front of this and have that brown showing around the edges. So this is where our chalk paint is going to come in. What I want to do is to paint the edges, the outside edges, and a little bit on the front, just in case I had a little bit of, you know, if I didn't cut my fabric exactly perfectly, I don't want to have some brown showing through. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint the whole thing. This will probably take a few minutes. And like I said, just a little bit around the edges on the front as well. I'm going to paint all of these edges. I'm going to paint the inside of the heart, and I'll come back when that's finished. Okay, I'm back. So as you can see, I painted all the outside edges with white chalk paint. I also did a little around the top edges, just in case my fabric doesn't completely fit. You know, when you cut stuff, sometimes you miss a corner or whatever. So this way it won't be as noticeable. So I've let it dry. And before I attach my buffalo check word, I do want to do just a dry fit and make sure that everything fits nicely. This may also actually help me to glue it on better. So I'm just going to lay the word over top and check how the fit is. If there's anything I need to trim off extra or anything like that, and I think it fits really nicely. So I was thinking about how to attach this, and I probably would have done the spray adhesive, except that it's raining today, and I don't like using spray stuff in my house because it really stinks up my house. So I think I'm going to do the decoupage, which, remember I told you that Dollar Tree carries Mod Podge in a small bottle like this. And if I could have found it, I would have used that. So it looks like just a watered down craft glue. So with my fabric laid on my wood, I'm going to just flip back a section at a time and paint the wood, and then lay my fabric on top. And you may get a few little bubbles. That is not anything to worry about. Just you smooth them out with your brush, and you can be fairly generous with this stuff. And once we've glued all of our entire word on, we're going to go back and Mod Podge the top. And when that dries, it's really cool. This is matte Mod Podge, so it's not going to look shiny, but what it will do is provide just a protective top. It'll keep the fabric from unraveling, and it also makes it easier to dust because you're dusting something that is smooth. I mean, I don't know. You don't need to do that, but that's what I'm choosing to do. So as you can see, I'm just flipping back portions of the design so that I can attach the Mod Podge. And sticking it back down. I really think it would have been easier if these letters had been individual, but it is what it is. It actually is not difficult to do this, just a little bit fussy. Now, when you painted your letters, if you had any little like lumps or chunks of paint at the front, you really should have wiped those off first or sanded it down a little bit, because it's going to show up once we get this fabric on here. We want a real smooth surface. Sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. But however, you're just watching this, you're probably not doing this yet, so just keep that in mind. You want a smooth surface without any little bumps showing through. Okay, so it's actually adhered, and now what I'm going to do is Mod Podge the outside. This edge is popping up. So depending on what type of fabric you choose for this craft, or you could of course cover it with paper, decorative paper, just keep in mind that by using a neutral fabric like the buffalo check, this is not exclusively a Valentine's Day decor piece. I can keep this on my shelf all year round. because love is not exclusive to Valentine's Day. However, if I had painted it red or added, you know, sparkly pink heart fabric to it, then of course, Valentine's Day is pretty much the only time of the year I would bring it out. But I have, if you follow my blog, you've seen pictures of my home. I have buffalo check in pretty much every room. Not a great amount, but a little sort of accent piece. So I'm planning to keep this out all the time. I have a huge bank of built-in bookcases in my living room, and I'm always trying to find decor that looks cute on there and adds a little bit of style. So I'm thinking that this would look really cute on my shelf just year round. All right. Now this Mod Podge dries quite quickly. If you do want to go back and do a second coat, you can. It's not necessary. I think I'll probably just do one. I do notice a couple little spots down here where my fabric extends over my wood. So once the Mod Podge dries, I may just go back and trim that out. But it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Perfection is highly overrated. All right, so just keep painting your Mod Podge. I think this really ended up being the easiest way to attach this fabric to the board sign. When you spray stuff, you can't always be precise. So I'm glad I chose to use this. And remember, all of these products you should be able to find at your local Dollar Tree. If you can't, you can go online. I can link to them below, or you can try, you know, another store. Maybe you'll luck out at another store. Okay, so the color of the sign, the buffalo check, is a little bit light right now just because it's still drying. You can see the first letter I did is already almost dry, so it's darkening up. But I'm going to just finish letting this dry, and then I'll show you how I've styled it. So here we go. Here's the finished Farmhouse Love Shelfie Sitter, whatever you want to call it. It looks so cute on this little bed tray that I painted last year. I'm showcasing it with my Farmhouse Tassels. That is also a dollar store DIY. I'll link to that below. But I mean, how cute, right? Sitting on a shelf, on a table, wherever I choose to use it, because I used black and white buffalo check, which is neutral. It can stay out all year. It doesn't have to be just a Valentine's Day project. I will also link to the little tea towel decor. It's a decorative tea towel. It's actually not to be used as a tea towel because it's not absorbent, but I'll link to this below as well. And that's it for today.